Hey, Decathlon Gamer, welcome back to Out of the Park Baseball 25, episode 19. We're in the off season. We're going to try to make things go a little faster than last year, but the off season is where we get a lot of our work done. So there is a lot to do, and while we might be in our off season, our season ended prematurely. Others are still playing. We have progressed now to the middle of October, so things have changed in terms of the playoff picture. The most notable thing of the playoff picture is that 3 out of the 4 wild card series winners have gone on to win their division series, knocking out a majority of the favorites, leaving us with just Houston, who swept the Rangers and are now leading the Red Sox 2 games to 1. Meanwhile, in the National League, both wild card winners have proceeded in 4 to make it to the league championship series, and it's the Reds and Diamondbacks, who are tied at 2 games apiece right now. That's where we're at in that scenario. International amateur pool has been revealed. There are 37 players in the pool. No, I have a custom filter on, so there's a lot more than 37 players in the pool. One thing that is different about this year than last year is the pool increased by a maximum of just shy of 1 million, and not all the teams have moved up in terms of their spending, but I am amongst the handful of teams that have maximized that spending. So I do have the full allotment available, which actually means there is a chance to get the big time player if we wanted to this year. Last year we went for quantity over necessary quality. I mean, we got as much quality as we could out of that quantity. But this year, if we wanted, we could go for the maximum quality. Because last year, like, the entire major leagues had that same 4.75 million. But this year, only a few of us have the 5.7, making us, much more at play for these young guys. But what else is out there? Let's get rid of these filters first. All right, so at this stage, there are lots of 5-star talents, but all in that 16, 17-year-old range. I mean, we are talking about players with potential. We are not talking about guys that are already bringing it and in their mid-20s ready to come over. So with that being said, we don't have to look at any of these lower guys really. But the big thing is we have no scouting accuracy. We are going to have to develop relationships with players. But demand, I mean, none of them seem to have that 5.7 range. And league interest seems to be on the low side for the entire group. There's literally one player that's outside of very low at this stage, who we already have good scouting accuracy on in a closer. So it's a reliever anyway. But with no obvious high demand, it looks like quantity and quality are going to be available to us, and we're just going to have to pick our bunch. When it comes to the international free agents, the first target for me is finding a good catcher. That's been an area of concern. That can be a long-term solution type position, but with no 5-star prospects in the catchers, the 2 best prospects are among the 10 invites to our whatever we're calling it, our international showcase. And with only a handful, not even a handful, of starters in the group, I'm going to go ahead and scout the 3 best of those. Next up for me is top shortstops, of which there's 3 there as well. That makes 8. I think we'll go for center fielders for the other 2 spots, if there are good ones. And with that, I have my 10 players, basically all at the key positions. All right, league interest remains low for all of them for now, but the relationship starts to build for some. Scouting accuracy starts to build for some. We're now on to the World Series with the Astros beating the Red Sox in 7 and the Reds taking those next 2 games to win in 6 against the Diamondbacks. So it's the Astros and Reds for for this year's World Series. This year's World Series champion is the Cincinnati Reds, winning in 5 against the Astros. That's coming from a wild card position, so they have done well in those regards. Alongside the Rangers, the Reds were the only team with 90 plus victories that came in as a wild card. So it's not like they were a bad team. They were a pretty good team, but not overwhelmingly good. Definitely the top wild card in the National League, but third best record. So good on them for coming away. They had the number one offense. Their problem was shutting down runs, but apparently they did it when they needed to. We've entered off-season mode properly now, and things are going to change from here in a few ways. We've got more to do than last season and less to do as we've progressed to a certain point. But beginning with the new budget, $118 million for the coming season. I do think that is up a bit from where we were last year. Estimated payroll could be about $60 million, which is very similar to where we were a year ago. But remember, we do have a lot of money coming off the books with a couple of expiring contracts that we are allowing to expire intentionally. Most of our goals were long-term. We only had 2 goals that were for last season. We achieved 1, and we weren't so bad with the other. Team record, expected better from this. I might be happy with 66 and 96. I was, but he's not. His expectation is for us to play 500 ball, and we're definitely getting closer to that. I would hope we can get at least 70 wins in the coming season. Okay, he wasn't seeing that as an upgrade at second either. Urias, as a rookie, wasn't a huge upgrade, but it was something. We had years to make the change for manager. We have not done so yet. They are happy with Denzel Clark as a top prospect. They want to see the farm system better, especially when they removed Clark from being considered part of the farm system. That really hurt our ranking there. New goals for the coming year. Don't suck completely has remained the same. Still manager with a better reputation. Find a top 20 prospect. Build a top 6 minor league system, which is just insane. Like, where's the middle ground, right? Why are they wanting us to go straight to the top when we're literally at the very bottom? It's like, why not in between? Bring more of your drafted players to your team. Increase fan interest and keep building your team up in order to reach the playoffs in the next 4 years. All right, folks, the big changes that are coming for the year is a lot of personnel leaving. Staff, coaches. Third base coach, Eric Martins, was the only expiring one at the senior level. But where you only have 3 coaches at each subsequent level, 2 of our AAA coaches are out. All 3 AA coaches are out. 1 high A coach is out. All 3 A level coaches are out. All 3 rookie league coaches are out. And 2 of our Dominican rookie league coaches are out. Lots of vacancies. We're going to go for a major staff overhaul, and we'll start that process here in a minute. As we go to enter the new year and farm system rankings recalculate, we're 27th. We've got 3 players on the list at 81st, 85th, and 93rd, all outfielders and new faces. I mean, these are not guys that we had in the past. Jose Rodriguez, 2.5-star prospect at high A ball. Ramos, 5-star prospect, center fielder, playing A ball. Just came in this last year. And Iniguez, 3.5-star prospect. So that's where we're kind of showing up on these guys. Definitely liking those last 2, but of course they are all young. We got a 20-year-old, a 17-year-old, and a 19-year-old. You like the looks of that 19-year-old one. I've definitely found, right now that we've been playing a little while here, that 5-star prospect thing is always just the teenager. And if they somehow hang on to that into their 20s, then you got something special. But most of them, that drops off, that tails off, that narrows down to what they actually can become. So somebody with all those tools as a young teenager eventually becomes something a little more defined later on. So finding those big prospects, but being a little older, like a 19-year-old 3.5 star prospect, is somebody who might actually have some pretty solid potential. And you can see, like in this case, this 19-year-old, he's already a 35, 30, 30, 35. He's already making progress. But these were all rookies this last year, so I don't know if I drafted them or if they were international free agents. This one's a little bit older, second year player for us, who we got up to double A already by the end of the season. No, high A. Right. Besides hiring personnel, the other two first tasks that we're going to need to do this offseason is we have our development facilities. We've got to pick out those players we want to try to aid in their development. And now we have a lot of high-end prospects that we want to commit to, and not necessarily the here and now players. This is a long build, and those are the guys that we want all coming together at the same time. So we might want to commit to them a bit more. But also we have arbitration beginning. For a third base coach, the actual in-game running is their primary attribute in which they need to contribute. But then they have that secondary role of being an assistant coach. So finding somebody, okay, fine, outstanding, but if they're terrible at everything else, what are they going to do for you, right? And they probably are going to teach the running, so that's another thing that you want them to be fairly good at. But if they can do other things, they're going to help your team out well. So looking at somebody like this, Craig Allen is a likely candidate, especially because they are unproven. With a lower reputation, they're going to ask for a bit less, and we might be able to lower that just a little bit more, $140,000. As I go into my minor leagues, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to prioritize positions. So we're going to start with managers, and we need 3 managers, and I also need to see if this Cooper Goldby is worth moving up, and they are very good in a number of areas. So I think I'm probably going to end up scooting them up to a higher level and see if I can offer them an extension. So we're going to bump them to manager of our Class A Stockton team. And we've already got their extension signed. So that changes one internal position. We've got a couple others to look at here to see if they are worthy of moving up. And yes, our high A pitching coach is a good one. Also entering their final year. So offering an extension here. And we're going to move them up to AAA. Okay, our high A manager is another one who is pretty good other than teaching running. 2 years left though, so we're going to go ahead and bump them up. And with internal movement now taken care of, now I have the vacancies that we know that we need to fill. So I have 3 manager slots, and so we will start with that one. We'll pick the best one to place at that highest level, and then I'll take 3 others from there. Most important thing that I need from these managers is development. Everything else becomes less important. We want development. Also going to isolate just managers. And then there's already 3 that fall into the legendary category. And all 3 of them look pretty dang good at a number of categories. So offering Barganier our high A. We've got the 2 rookie leagues. And I'm looking for somebody who's a little bit, even though we have legendary on the development side, these guys don't necessarily coach certain areas very well at all. If you look down the list, I think we have maybe something a little bit more balanced. It's outstanding, yes, but I think we're probably looking at a good one here with Sean Barron. Next up is pitching coaches. We need a lot. We need 5 of them. With pitching coaches, it's pretty straightforward. You have teach pitching, and then you add in the other element, handle development and mechanics. If they have those, then you're good to go. And you're looking for kind of that combination, like there's an excellent. Aging's not as much of a problem in the minor leagues, so having a legendary excellent, I think, is a good start. Will Morris is also going to get an offer. we're definitely going to pull our 5 offers out of this group of, what is that, 7? And finally, that leaves us with 6 hitting coaches. Same thing, same basic idea, plenty to choose from. That's a whole lot of offers now pending. Not all of them will sign. There will still be a couple holes to go back and fill. Part of the reason for that is for more than half of them, I've under offered what they're asking for, but usually only by 5K, maybe 10K from what they were asking, because the quality of these guys will jack up the price. It is going to increase what we are paying in terms of salary to the overall. So limiting that a little bit makes a big difference. But as you can see, it's the salaries. Well, maybe you can't see because I'm not showing you the one by one what I did with those. But major league coaches are making way more than what we're going to get out of our AAA, AA, and so on. And a lot of those guys that I'm offering have quality higher than the level that they're going to be at. And so they might not accept it, even if it's a suitable offer, because they want to be managing AAA and not managing the rookie level. On that player development side, by the way, it's not just 3 players that make it into the rankings. There are 2 additional ones. Big change from where we were, where really we only had a single guy who was Major League ready, and we made wait a year, but definitely a sign of the things to come. But it's also much younger than what we had before on our top prospect side, as we've made that shift. A lot of international free agents, and yeah, I think we're moving in a good way, but it's going to take time for it to bear fruit. By the way, if I didn't show it, this was our minor league rankings this year. As you can see, that the AA and the high A suffered. We took away a lot of quality. We traded a lot of the here and now ready players with limited potential, and we've replaced them with young up-and-comers who have much better potential, just aren't as good right now. And it definitely showed at that level that we were a little bit short. With only 6 slots for the development lab, it's tricky on how we go about this. Now, options. Denzel Clark, Mark Vientos are the 2 players at the major league level, the only 2 that I would absolutely pick and in normal circumstances. The here and now guys that are already up there that still have potential. But at the same time, I think we need to focus on prospects. And even then, the prospects could be more than one thing happening on this list. But we will start with Edgar Ramos. High contact potential. I think plate discipline is probably a good one to focus on. Aniguez, same thing. I'm going to use something that we are capable of getting gains out of and try to bring that into these guys. Onofre is a power guy, but not great at contact. So we might have to go for the quality of contact. If he's going to be a major league prospect, he's got to be able to hit the ball decently and not just for power. Our first pitcher to gain selection is going to be Alexis Cerna, 3.5-star prospect, rookie level starting pitcher with amazing stuff. His biggest weakness is control, so we're going to work on improving that. Down at the international complex, we're going to grab the last 2 slots from here with our 2 biggest prospects down there. So Wilson Del Sol, a catcher, good all-around prospect. Defense is a bit of a weakness for him. If he's going to make it as a catcher, we're going to need him to be good at his position. So we're going to improve defense at catcher. We want him to be able to stay as a catcher. Jesus Razo, 4.5 stars. High potential, kind of good all around. Defense is terrible currently, but we'll see what we can do with him. Like gap power. So none of these are easy. We're going medium for 4, hard for a couple. We'll see. Any successes will be a huge plus. On to arbitration. We've got 25 million in expiring contracts, 4 expiring contracts, 2 minor leaguers who we just don't want to pay major league salaries to. Though Sean Newcomb has spent time as a major leaguer, he's done well at AAA, but he did not do well at the major league level with an 8 ERA or 7.9 and 32 years of age with Marte. Rengifo is one you don't want to get rid of, but I don't want to be spending $5.5 million on him. The $5 million was already a negative contract that nobody else wanted. As a free agent, you might be able to turn around and offer him significantly less once he hits that market, and maybe we can get him back for $2 million, $3 million. But either way, Rengifo was a shortstop converted to third base, who we picked up on the waiver wire for free, but had to pay a bit this year because of arbitration. Looking at the arbitration estimates here, nothing looks crazy. The current salaries, especially when you start adding that in, the money coming off the books, we're going to be a lot better than the $25 million. This is not going to be a $25 million increase, but it's a lot of guys. Carlos Hernandez, Mason Miller, JP Sears, Bryce Wilson, 4 of our starters. Jake Cousins, Aniel De Los Santos, Jeffers and Langeliers, so both of our catchers, and then Nick Allen and Ruiz. Makes sense on where we're at with a lot of these guys, as they were, young players. Their service time showing here kind of just where we're at. I'm loving the Mason Miller arbitration, though, and I'm actually tempted to sign him to something a little more long-term. He did not have a great season, but the wins above replacement still clearly puts him above others. And now that we know that the arbitration estimate is about $2.2 million, if I can sign him to a multi-year deal for something in that range of, even if it's $3 million, I think it would be worthwhile. So Miller is not interested in signing a long-term deal right now, so we're going to have to stick with the arbitration numbers for him. I think Carlos Hernandez is somebody who's definitely looking to make too much. Let's see if we can bring that down a little bit, and we might need to be moving on from him, but he's already making $2 million. Okay, a number of coaches instantly have reacted. We'll see if any of them have accepted. We're getting a lot of just, yay, I'm happy. With the highest wins above replacement in the American League, Julio Rodriguez hitting .312, 44 homers, 24 stolen bases, 8.8 wins above replacement will be my pick for the AL MVP. Much closer competition, a few players all right there, and I've noticed like the entire Reds team has just a lot of guys who had really good seasons. So it was a big team effort for them, not one player dominating, but Acuna is going to get the pick for the National League MVP. For my National League Cy Young Award, I'm going to go a little unconventional with this one. Ranger Suarez for the Cubs was 21-1, a far better record than what anybody else had. He had a good ERA of a 3.19. He had a decent whip of a 1.29. 4.3 wins above replacement, was definitely not top of the league, but nobody really stood out in some of those tighter metrics. So I'm going to go with the phenomenal record. In the AL, I'm going to go with Tariq Skubal for the Tigers. 16-7 overall, 3.26 ERA, 1.14 whip, 9.6 Ks per 9, and a 5.4 wins above replacement. A little bit more conventional. The metrics back up, but also had a good record, not a 20-win season, but kind of the more complete package for this pick. I'm done looking at the National League. I will continue on with the American League, as that's our league for the other positions. Grand for the Twins, 45 saves, 1.54 ERA, and a .81 whip, 3.4 wins above replacement is my Reliever of the Year award winner. Denzel Clark wasn't too far off from being a contender for Rookie of the Year, but of course he did miss a big chunk of time. I think that held him back quite a bit, and others did more with less at-bats than he was able to do. He really just did not have a solid season, and actually really none of the rookies stand out as exceptional, but Catcher Harry Ford for the Mariners had a 3.9 win above replacement with 14 homers, 250 average. Third base coach Craig Allen has accepted our offer, so we have our first spot filled. Our major league roster staff is now complete once again, and a number of other guys have already agreed to. So after just a handful of days, we are getting there, right? The weirdos are filled. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pending offers remaining. The rest have all accepted. As we're into November, we have our second month to run our international private training once again. And so we'll go ahead and run that practice and see how we do with these guys. Scouting accuracy getting better and better with them. League interest is decent with most of them, all but a couple really. And those relationships are getting better and better. I'm liking the whole $160K for a 4-star shortstop. That seems like a great offer to me because it gives you plenty of room. I'm looking at this going, we could probably sign about 3 guys, especially if one of those targets is this one. We had a lot of retirements at the minor league level, quite a few of them, especially kind of the leftovers from the old guard that were on the older side. But I also did sign a number of free agents that had, some quality to give us some sort of value, and a number of them were a little bit on the older side, and so we've lost quite a few. Anyway, right now we have our 28 of 28 at the Portland roster. For AAA, we have 29, so not much in terms of changes there. But this is the level where things really dropped off. AA, 20 players now, 18 for high A, 23 for regular A. So it's in that range where we lost probably 20 players overall. So we do have some holes to fill. But with 38 and 51 at these 2 levels, it's going to be pretty easy to fill that immediately. Plus, we've got an international one that we've got to keep an eye on because you can't have more than 50 here. We've got 48 right now. Monseyo has snuck in the last couple of days. We will go ahead and release. That frees up one more spot. We're looking at 47. This is the danger group that I've been slowly weeding out one by one, and you can see that all but a couple of these guys we have very good scouting on, and I've asked for reports, but this is always much slower and a bit less accurate. Why? Because it's our international complex, which isn't even located here. It's located like in the Dominican Republic or something. I think what I really need to do to free up spots instead of releasing these guys is all these 1.5 stars that are a little bit older. We just need to get them promoted to that Dominican level, and then they become easy trade bait. We can throw them into trades, and I'm not as worried about their development. That brings me down to 40 short term. I think that puts us in a much better spot, and I now have another half a dozen players that we can use in a Phase B style trade. All right, folks, well, we've only just made it into November, but there was a lot to initiate the offseason. We've gotten through the playoffs, and we've initiated that offseason. We've initiated a number of things that are going from here, and the staff was the big one we had this year that we didn't have the year prior, as we didn't have expiring contracts. With those things now happening and behind us, I think the offseason should move a bit faster, but in terms of things to come, lots of awards to be announced in the near future. But we have the salary arbitration hearings, and I'm not too worried about that. We're going to go pretty fast past that. I already showed you who I'm voting for. Arbitration hearings, free agency filings, so all starting in a few weeks. Hall of Fame voting will be one we'll definitely do here, and then that takes us into the winter meetings, and that's where I'll make some Phase B kind of deals again, clear up some space before we have the Rule 5 draft and international free agency beginning in January. I would love to get to January in that next episode. It may happen, it might not, but I think at the very least we should be able to reach the Rule 5 draft, especially with the next few weeks likely happening pretty quickly. But I've got a lot of scouting assignments and things to do along the way, so I will be very busy in the meantime. That's going to do it for this episode, though. I'm Decathlon Gamer. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Be safe out there. Bye for now.